So yeah, I actually read Abigail Schreier's book. That was one of the things that inspired me to start talking. There's a whole chapter in there. You read the book, The Irreversible Damages?
Yes.
You know, so there's a whole chapter on the therapist. That's the title of the chapter. And you know, there's the whole beginning where she describes the profiles of the different kids, all girls, that have suddenly become transgender. And I was reading it, and the profiles match exactly what I was seeing in 2021 when I came back from my disability. Like kids that had, you know, never really had this before, that, you know, usually had some kind of social isolation issue where they didn't feel like they fit in with their peers, or they, you know, they had some other sort of issue, or some were, you know, on the autistic spectrum. Some had some kind of trauma in their history, or they were, you know, they felt powerless in their life in some way, and they suddenly became trans. And then when they became trans, it actually didn't help their mental health, because obviously the kids I was seeing were in a mental health program. A lot of them were just coming off of being hospitalized. So the program I was in, they were hospitalized, and then they go to this outpatient group therapy program to basically restable themselves back to society. They have this model for both adults and kids. So I was seeing that. So I was seeing all of that. And I was just, this is what I saw. And this is not the trans people that I've known my entire life, who are, one, very rare, and two, not looking for attention, not looking for people to validate the fact that they're trans. They want to blend in. That's how they always were. That's how I believe, you know, Xander always was, like, just wanting to, you know, this is how I'm not, you know, feeling, this is my feeling, but I'm not trying to get something out of this. I'm not, in fact, I don't even want you to know about this part about me. I just want to blend in as the thing that I'm feeling, but I'm not trying to push it on anybody. And I'm not trying to, you know, call my parents names about it or anything like that. And when I saw them all, you know, like using pronouns as kind of this like power move, that I was just, and the therapists that were around me weren't, you know, recognizing it, either weren't recognizing it or not saying anything. I'm not sure which. You know, that they needed someone to help them. They were floundering, but they were allowed to do all of this, and it actually made them spiral and get worse. So I was watching this dynamic happen, and it was just like hard for me to watch. And then when I actually did call them out on it, obviously with compassion, the way you're saying, like, I wasn't like, so that's the thing about conservative frustrated, like, there are only two genders, stop with this crap, you know? And it's like, that's true, and they're telling the truth, and I actually don't knock them for it. But when you're talking to someone who's sort of in the thick of it, and they're feeling really lost, and they're feeling splintered as a human being, and they're feeling really empty inside, when you do that, you're shutting them down more. You know, they're basically causing them to be a turtle to crawl into their shell further. So you have to at least learn how to approach the person if you want to reach them, and, you know, form that rapport with them, and then ask them, you know, what's happening, and, you know, and then gently ask them, like, what is this, what are you getting out of this, you know, and asking them, you know, well, that sounds like you're trying to be like a victim instead of trying to get, you know, have them recognize you for something great that you've done. What, you know, why is that? You know, and I remember sort of confronting them that way, and it went a long way, and the kids actually really responded to me positively, and they liked that. And then they would say, I realized I'm getting myself in trouble on purpose, and it's not helping me. You know, I realized that, like, this one girl, she would say, first she would yell about how her parents are these big transphobes, and then she'd say, but I know they love me, and they've always been good parents, and, you know, and she was conflicted about it, because she knew they really weren't transphobes, but you know, so I talked to her about, like, well, how do you know they love you? And then she would say, like, oh, they care about me. And especially her dad, who wouldn't use her new name, you know, like, he'd only use her dead name. And she was really angry and say, well, he's transphobic, but he loves me. And so, you know, to reach that side of her, you know, and she was conflicted, and she did have sexual trauma, and she did have, like, cutting behaviors, and she hated it. She felt shame about it all. But yet so she had this behaviors and this thing that this loop she's in, having shame about it. And the therapists were just affirming these things that were actually creating shame and creating conflict in her family. And so I was watching that and saying, this is not compassion. Compassion is actually working with the real issues at hand, and talking to them like human beings.